Hi, this is a Curvy 3D tutorial where I'll be showing you how I made some armor pieces for this character. This armor is made of lots of little pieces, but mostly it's using two techniques. One is a slab and fit to surface, and the other is a lathe and trim object. So first we'll make some slabs. It's tricky making curved objects. So to start with, we're just going to make flat two-dimensional shapes to describe the armor pieces. Because we want sharp corners, we're going to use the point-to-point method. So at the top there's a zigzag which gives you point-to-point lines. So draw point to point. This means we can just click to make points rather than dragging to make a whole curve at once. So we can click around the outline of the shapes we're going to use for the armour. Just switch into the front view. You can see in the background we've got a lathe which represents the overall shape of his body, which we're going to be using later. So I'm just using the curve tools, and I press T to get the move tool, which lets you drag bits of the curve around, and then I pressed 1 just to select a single point of the curve to drag, and then 0 to drag the whole curve again. After each piece, I press space to deselect it so it's ready to draw the next slab. Just making these quite rough at the moment, but you can obviously spend more time on them on your own designs. Again, using T, the move tool, to drag the corners, and to drag individual points, I've pressed 1 on the keyboard to tell it to use the smallest size move tool. Now the slabs we've got here are quite low resolution. They don't use many faces, but we could have drawn smoothed edge slabs instead, which have a lot more points around their curve. And if we drew a smooth slab, we'd probably want to reduce the number of points to make the curve a bit simpler. So I'll just show you that. These are our low resolution slabs. And just switch back to the normal drawing tool. So you can see there's lots of it's very dense points on the curve, so we'd want to use curve optimize and reduce the distance between points. But we don't need to do this on our point-to-point curves because they're already quite low resolution. So when I'm ready to then shape those to the body, I'm going to join them together with mesh join. We'll need more resolution because we want them to curve, so we can use subdivide, increase to 3 divisions, and turn off smoothing so we preserve their nice crisp sharp shapes. Now they're ready to drop onto the surface of our character. So I've finished with the subdivide, so I baked that action. I'm going to use the move tool to drag them in front of the character, so every piece of those slabs is now in front of the body mesh, and then use fit to drop to surface, and you can see that this has shaped it towards the surface of our character, turning each of those flat slabs into more of a subtle curve. To add a bit more shape, I'm going to mask the middle of the object using the mask gradient tool, the solarize and the dome options to change the mask shape. and now using the move pull tool again, I can just add some extra curvature to those pieces. This again turns the straight lines into subtle curves, which looks quite nice. When I'm done, I press Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl L to paste a mirrored copy of that mesh. And repeat this process to make all the sections of your mesh. You don't have to make them all at once. You can make them one by one, and sometimes you might want to rotate your model so the fitting step comes in from the side or the back. Now for the shoulder, I'm going to draw a lathe and use the circle rulers to make it a more precise shape. Once you've used the circle ruler, you can keep the mouse button held down and then hold shift to change the curvature of that circle arc. Just use a straight ruler to flatten the bottom. Once I'm happy with the larger shape, I'm going to use mesh to form trim surface to cut that shape in half to give another a sort of flat side to that shoulder pad. And you see, just by drawing a single curve, we've sort of sliced away a part of that mesh. You can use multiple curves to slice it multiple times to add more flat sides to your object. Next, I'm going to draw a strap using a loft object. I've accidentally drawn a slab, so I want to delete that and try again with a loft object. There we go, there's the loft. So the first curve defines the path, the second curve defines the cross section. So in this case, we're going to use a very simple semicircular path and a straight cross section. And that gives us a basic strap shape. Increase the depth to make it a 3D shape, and use the curve rulers to tidy up those curves into nice clean shapes. I want to make like a catch on that loft, so I'm going to duplicate it and then use the scissor tool to cut down the size of the piece I'm working on, and then I'm just going to scale and move that into shape so it looks like a fastener on that strap. One technique which makes for very fast sculpting is reusing pieces and scaling and editing them. It also helps your overall character design look more coherent because the shapes are repeated across the character. Next, I'm just going to show you how I made his cloth belt. This is made out of a couple of lathes and a couple of lofts. Although there's a lot of detail here, we get a lot of it very cheaply by using lathes and lofts. So I'm going to draw a zigzaggy shape for the profile of his belt. Switch to the curve tools and make it a two-line lathe using that button at the bottom of the tool bar. Increase the resolution a little bit. Next, turn it into a four-line lathe so I can change the front and the back profiles. So I'm going to pinch in the middle to make it look like it's sort of pinched into a knot in the front. Let's just make a copy. As I said before, making copies makes the object more consistent with itself. And this is going to be the knot on the front of his belt. So move that into place with the scale tool, the move tool. I'm using W to move, E to rotate, and R to scale on the keyboard as shortcuts. Now I want the loose dangling parts of the belt, and this will be another loft object. So we draw the overall path, the length of the object, and then we draw a cross section. Again, this is going to be a wobbly line. Just rotate that into place and tweak the curve a little bit. Use the curve rulers to make it a nice smooth shape. When I'm happy with that, Control C to copy, Control L to paste a mirrored version. Let's just select those pieces and give them a cloth colour. For cloth, if your highlight is the same colour as the diffuse, it makes it look like a sort of velvety, silky sort of cloth. Finally, I'm going to make the handle of his sword. This is going to mimic something which is wrapped in on itself with a red and a black sort of motif. I'm going to use Edit Duplicate Proxy and then turn the proxy into an array by holding down on that little pop-up where it says proxy and picking array, setting the number of counts in the array to 12 and then setting the offset to a little bit down. Once that's made, I press K to bake it, Control J to join the pieces, Control C, Control V to copy and paste the other half of the wrap, the black half, and then just change the material there to give it a sort of black shading. That's roughly how I made it. It's almost there. And that pretty much sums up how I made the armour for this model. It's very quick techniques, fun to do. I'll just show you how I made the leg guard as well. This repeats the point-to-point technique. So drawing the overall shape, then we're drawing a second curve into that same slab, and the second curve will make a hole in the previous slab. You can draw more curves to make more holes in the slab. This is a good way to add little details. You notice this is a very low resolution object again, so once we're happy with the shape, we're going to subdivide, turn off smooth, increase the number of divisions, and then we're going to use the gradient mask and the rotate tool to bend that whole piece round into an arc, because we want that armour piece to wrap round the leg. Just bend that into position and then make some copies. Making layered copies is a nice trick with armour. Again, repeated shapes is aesthetically quite nice on a design. I just copy, paste, Control D duplicates the whole object all at once. And that's that. So this is 3D Warrior sketched very quickly in Curvy 3D using slabs and lathes and lofts. Subscribe to the channel for more.